Pokemon Champions comes out in a few days, and while we know the abilities of some of the new Mega Pokemon, like Piercing Drill Mega Excadrill and Snow Warning Froslass, we're still in the dark with most of the new Megas. However, there is a leak that might be credible running around. You see, a few days before the Pokemon Home update and we got Mega Excadrill and Mega Skullvillain's abilities, a list of the new Megas and their abilities were posted on a Chinese forum. This list correctly guessed Mega Excadrill's Piercing Drill, and the list has a bunch of other abilities we can talk about. While there might be some credibility, take this with a grain of salt, as it could all just end up being fake and just good guesses. Either way, let's jump right into it. As I said in the intro, take this with a grain of salt. This might not be 100% accurate, but them guessing Mega Excadrill and Mega Froslass and a few more prior to them even being revealed makes this kind of credible. And I want to talk about it. So even if it's wrong, it's still fun to talk about. Let me know your thoughts down below as well. And feel free to subscribe if you want. I'm on my way to 500,000 subs and you can help me get there. If you don't want to, no big deal. So let's talk about Mega Staraptor. I'm very excited about Mega Staraptor, right? Because prior to Mega Evolution, first off, it looks sick. But that's not why you're here. But prior to Mega Evolution, it obviously has Intimidate. Now, the leak has said that Mega Staraptor gets Contrary. So what Contrary does is if you have a stat drop, it would actually be raised, and if you have a stat raise, it would actually be dropped. So if your opponent intimidates you, it actually raises your attack. If they special defense drop you with Shadow Ball, it raises your special defense. Likewise, if they went for something that would raise your attack, or if you went for Swords Dance, you would actually drop your attack -2. So Mega Staraptor having Contrary is pretty interesting in both singles and doubles, and I'm kind of excited to talk about it. They also did mention that they weren't sure if it was Contrary or Defiant, but they were leaning more towards Contrary. I don't know if they ever went for Close Combat in it, but Contrary is really interesting because Mega Staraptor does have a way of guaranteed raising its defenses, and that is with Close Combat, and of course that is now Stab. Coming off of a base 140 attack, that's going to hit pretty hard. We're on Pokemon Showdown. I know some people, these hit other people that don't necessarily know my content. This is Pokemon Showdown. It is a site. It's free. You can actually battle. It's a simulator. You can watch battles too. You can battle on anything. This is Doubles OU, which is essentially VGC, but with all 6 Pokemon. And yeah, just letting y'all know, it's free. But Close Combat's pretty cool because it can raise your defenses, and considering you have 85 HP and 100 defense, and 90 special defense, you actually have some really good bulk, as well as coming off of that base 110 speed, so you have multiple opportunities. So even if you like predict incorrectly, right, your opponent goes down to a fairy type or some type of resist, you're raising your defenses by +1. Another thing about Mega Staraptor is like they really said, yo, I hate you Incineroar. I mean, VGC fans or VGC players probably feel the same way. So being able to always have that attack raise in front of Incineroar because of Contrary is really cool too. Now Mega Staraptor doesn't really have anything else to kind of buff its Contrary. If you want to be technical and outslow your opponent, under Trick Room, go for Agility and make yourself nice and slow. And I do want to note that people were saying on Twitter and in threads, oh, Roost with Close Combat would be really cool. I agree, it would be really cool. Unfortunately, Mega Staraptor and regular Staraptor, at least at this current point in time, does not have access to Roost anymore. It lost Roost. They just decided to get rid of Roost on Staraptor. I believe it was a TM and they weren't letting it. It was like something like that, or like some learned move and it wasn't allowing it. So it does not have any recovery outside of rest. But that doesn't really matter when you have all this bulk. And I think that the really cool flip side is that you can intimidate your opponent prior to Mega Evolving, so you can lower their attack and then you can go for your Stab Close Combat and raise your attack from there. I'm sure standard sets are going to be, if you're playing in the 6v6 singles tier, it'll probably be something like this. If you are playing in VGC, you'll probably see something like this. It might even try and set Tailwind, but I feel like it's better as just an attacker next to something that can heal it with like Heal Pulse or Life Dew or anything as well. Just to do some massive damage and kind of just ignore your opponent's attack drop. Like this is, you know, if you hate Rillaboom and Incineroar, which are two very good Pokemon, and usually on the same teams. I don't even know if Rillaboom is in Pokemon Champions. I know Incineroar is. This is just a great little answer to them as well, getting your boosted attack just from existing. Knockoff giving you an answer for Golden Go and Pokemon like that, but of course U-Turn is an option as well, and there's still Tailwind too. Like Tailwind is definitely there, but I do think that this is a really cool Pokemon specifically for all 3 formats that I love to play. 6v6 singles, draft, and VGC isn't really in the love, but it's I like it. So just being able to dominate with this seems pretty cool. I think it's a big buff to this Pokemon, and the fact that like had they given it Defiant, or if it actually is Defiant, I would kind of not like that, just because we do have Galarian Zapdos, which basically is the same thing, just slower. And yeah, I feel like you're kind of just taking its its spotlight from that, but at the cost of using a Mega Stone. Anyway, Staraptor having Intimidate prior to the Contrary, I think is really cool. And just being able to have this buff and this boost for your defenses, making it harder to take down, pairing it with something like Sinistra for its hospitality to heal you or life do, and even, you know, Rage Powder seems really nice, and its 350 speed seems really good with that. Next up, we have Mega Golisopod. Now, this one I truly hope is real. Mega Golisopod has Tough Claws. Please give it. They can give this Pokemon Honey Gather, and it would be good. All right, look at its stats: 150 attack, 175 defense, 120 special defense, and 40 speed. We're going to talk about that 40 speed tier in a bit. I just want to focus on not having emergency exits. So those that don't know how it works, basically when you're hit and you're brought under half health, you have to switch out. That's it. This Pokemon has always had incredible stats. Like, these are amazing, but you still had some really good stats prior to Mega Evolving. And now actually having the ability to attack is really cool. Also, obviously being Bug Steel is great. You're only weak to fire. Now, Tough Claws is the new ability they've given it. That is a 1.3 times boost on all its attacks. This is coming off of a base 150 attack Pokemon, right? At level 100, this is 438 attack. Obviously, level 50, it's going to be 2 something, but this is amazing because your first impression goes crazy right here, as well as boosted moves like Leech Life for recovery. Obviously, this Pokemon is sharing typing with Scizor and Mega Scizor, but having Leech Life recovery does set it apart from Scizor currently, who does not have Roost anymore. At least at the current point in time. It might have it in Pokemon Champions. So this actually gives you some recovery. On top of that, it also has access to Pain Split. And this is more me looking at singles and draft if you really want to. Other things it has over that in terms of singles will be spikes. But I think Tough Claws being able to get off strong U-turns, which was the buff that it did get in Pokemon Legends, ZA, besides like the few other moves. Being able to get off strong U-turns that are Tough Claw boosted. Being able to also get off knockoffs, your Iron Heads into Fairies. And the fact that you're only weak to fire is really cool. I think a lot of people can run this on Rain. I think one of the biggest things that this can help out Rain is that Rain modes depend on kind of being fast, right? You have your Basculegion for your Swift Swim, and I'm talking from a VGC perspective. You have your Basculegion for Swift Swim, you have your Archaludon to Electroshot spam, and typically that's kind of like where your team is centered around. And then Trick Room, you might have Sinistra as an anti-Trick Room and something to heal Archaludon as well, but to help reverse Trick Room. But Golisopod is a really cool speed tier. I mentioned that base 40 speed because it's actually slower than a very, very, very common and good Pokemon in Trick Room, and that is Ursaluna. So Golisopod being slower than Ursaluna and being able to actually hit it with a Tough Claws boosted close combat if it wants to. I want you to see how much damage this does to max HP Ursaluna. Max HP Ursaluna takes 88 to 104%. This is level 50 calc from close combat, Tough Claws boosted. I also want to note, I did mention it on Rain specifically because it does help with the weakness to fire. Obviously, you make it a have. But also Liquidation, which is stab prior to, and also gets the Rain boost as well, can be really nice because it can allow you to actually do even more. 94 to 111, also doing damage to just fire types in general. So I think this is an insane buff for Golisopod, especially because, sorry I got interrupted for a second, but the big thing about having Tough Claws, not only boosting its stats in general, is that you can finally make use of the awesome setup moves that Golisopod has without fear of just being forced out, right? I only talked about the 4 attack set, 3 attack plus protect and all that, which I think would be very strong in it, but Golisopod also has access to moves like Swords Dance and Bulk Up. Bulk Up plus Leech Life was actually very popular in the Legends ZA metagame, which was a fake metagame created on Pokemon Showdown to kind of let you use the Megas and show them off. So being able to make use of Swords Dance to raise your attack +2 or Bulk Up to raise your attack and defense and just become even harder to deal with, I think is really cool. This mod would be pretty good in the size spam as itself, as long as they don't have Armor Rouge. And outside of that, you can also go for moves like Sucker Punch and Aqua Jet, which will be Tough Claws boosted as well, since Tough Claws is doing it for contact moves. And basically all moves Golisopod is going for are contact moves, so you'll be having these nice little boosts on it. If Mega Scizor does not have Roost, and this specifically goes towards draft and 66 singles, I think Mega Golisopod probably has the niche over it. It has better overall bulk. It is slower, which is actually preferred for a slow U-turn. And just being able to compete with a Swords Dance set via Swords Dance, Aqua Jet, Sucker Punch, which is obviously not priority like Bullet Punch. Scizor always has that Bullet Punch. I think a fast Scizor with Bullet Punch will always be cool for Pokemon like Heatran and things like that. And I guess Roost doesn't matter when it comes to VGC on either of these two. But even Golisopod having access to Pain Split and Leech Life is pretty cool. So I think it does have Scissor's going to have some competition, basically. Pyroar's stats are funny. The fact that they just gave it like plus 20 everything is really interesting. Now, Pyroar actually has a new ability, I believe, called Thermal Boost, or some sort of a thermal boost from there. Now, we'll see how real this is based on the fact that there was a data mine, and then we weren't able to actually see much from Cathotics in Pokemon Home. But Thermal Boost is, it raises or powers up Fire-type moves by 1.5. Think of basically the Sun being up, because that's the boost that Sun gives Fire-type attacks. Now, just to show you a quick calc. Okay, so here is Pyroar's Fire Blast versus Abomasnow. Does 214 to 253%. Doesn't have a chance of living. Now, this is just a regular Fire Blast. Let's give it a Sun Boost, which is a 1.5 times boost. It does 322 to 380%. Now, in order for Thermal Boost to give it the boost, we're going to actually just multiply times 1.5 of 110, which is 165. And as you can see, it's just slightly weaker than the Sun Boost, even though they're both 1.5. I'm not sure if Sun rounds differently than this. I know Pokemon rounds down. But either way, it is just a 1.5 times boost. I think it's cool. I think it might have been better, even though you could have said, oh, it's a clone of Zard-Y. It might have been better just to give this Pokemon Drought. That way, not only can it still have the Sun Boost and weaken the fire, the water type attacks aimed at it, but also be able to go for Solar Beam just like Zard-Y can. Or even like adaptability might have been better in this. But obviously your overheats and your Fire Blast are going to hit incredibly hard in general. And I don't know how much use Pyroar is going to have. It is timid, so it's actually very fast, right? But and Modest still outspeeds Zard-Y and actually hits only a little bit weaker than Zard-Y right here. Just because of the special attack difference. It's by a good chunk of points. But you can afford to go Modest because you're still faster than Pokemon like Mega Metagross, for instance, if you're playing VGC. And you can still hit incredibly hard with that as well. But why would you use it over Charizard-Y is, you know, I mean, assuming it did actually get Drought, which it doesn't. But the Thermal Boost is interesting. I don't like it as much, right? I think it's cool. It's like if you're going to go that way, just be like Araquanid and give it even more, you know? Give it even more, just like Araquanid's ability. Araquanid's ability is crazy. Because Water Bubble actually powers your water moves times 2. It can't be burnt, and fire type attacks are halved. Like, I think giving it a 1.5 times boost is a little bit of a mistake when it actually comes to this Pokemon. But what are your thoughts? Let me know down below when it comes to Pyroar. I'm like, in terms of potential new abilities, I'm still not, you know, clear about that. Now, Drampa is interesting, right? Drampa's gonna be cool because it's cool on Trick Room. It's obviously prior to Mega Evolving. You also have some great abilities like Berserk, Sap Sipper, and I think the big one for at least VGC is going to be something like Cloud 9, being able to ignore the weather. Now, the ability they ended up giving it was Drizzle. And again, at least in the leak. Drizzle is really cool, right? Because imagine just fighting a Sun team, and then you have your Cloud 9. So there goes the effects of weather, and then you can bring in your Basket Legion next to it if you're running it on a Rain team. And then just activate the Rain as well, so you outspeed everything on the other side, do the Swift Swim and do it. So Drizzle is actually really cool, especially on Drampa, because Drampa has some great moves that are actually benefiting from the Rain. So some of those moves include moves like Thunder, which will be 100% accurate because of the Rain. Literally cannot miss in Rain, which I think is pretty cool. You also have moves like Hydro Pump being powered up as well. And obviously Drampa does have, in general, some good spread moves like Hyper Voice. And while Heat Wave is not probably something you want to run in it, you can run Earth Power as well if you want to hit, or even Focus Blast for Pokemon like Steel types. So this is a pretty nice buff for Drampa, and it is going to hit pretty hard on that base 160 special attack stat. For instance, a lot of Fairy types are actually going to be two-shot by Hydro Pump, because Hydro Pump is going to be hitting insanely hard. To show you a calc, Hydro Pump in the Rain does obviously more than Hyper Voice to a Pokemon like Clefable. Even though your Hyper Voice is doing a lot anyway, because you have max special attack. 160 special attack is no joke, especially under Trick Room. Drampa obviously also has some cool things like Calm Mind as well. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this Pokemon ended up keeping Roost. I see Roost right here, but just keep in mind this is a National Dex moveset I'm looking at, so it might not actually have Roost. And because Drampa's not currently in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, I can't confirm or deny. But if it does end up having Roost, a Calm Mind set could be pretty cool, at least in the lower tiers. Again, on Trick Room, I think it's going to be really cool. I think on Rain, it's going to be pretty cool as well. It's an option over Pelipper. Pelipper obviously has the ability, though, to set up Tailwind, which is pretty big. Has strong Hurricanes, which Drampa actually learns as well. So Drampa has a lot to actually make use of this. This is really funny. This is like when, in the Pokemon anime, when Pelipper had like the 3 or 4 different Pokemon inside it, it was going for like Thunderbolt and Flamethrower and stuff like that. So I love what Drampa can do for a potential Trick Room, and I love that it's slower than Pokemon like Ursaluna, so it can actually threaten them with moves like Hydro Pump if it really wants to risk going for them, or even just drop a Draco with Draco Meteor. There's a lot of damage you can do with this Pokemon, and I think this is a pretty cool buff, at least in that. And I, for one, we actually gave this Pokemon Drizzle in the Pokemon Legends ZA metagame, and I remember using max speed on it. And you might be thinking, 36 speed, max speed, that's dumb. Yeah, at some points, but outspeeding Pokemon like Corviknight, which run min speed, and being able to one-shot them with Thunder was helping out Pokemon on my team. So I think it's a pretty cool niche this guy can have, and again, just being able to hit hard. You have base 110 defense as well, so you can definitely Eve this Mon to tank a lot of hits. Normal Dragon has a really, really good resisting Ghost, and in a metagame where Mega Gengar is really good, I think that this is going to be a pretty cool Mon. And of course, there are mind games with Sap Sipper, which can benefit Rain too, as well as Berserk, so you can get a special attack raise if you really want to. They're saying Mega Glimmora now has Levitate, which is also the ability that we ended up giving in ZA. Now, I don't know how accurate this stuff is, but it's pretty cool that a lot of us were able to guess these abilities if they end up being the true abilities. Levitate, obviously, for Rock Poison is pretty cool. You are immune to ground. I think this is really good in VGC, where Pokemon like Landorus and Garchomp and the other Landorus are really strong at clicking ground moves. And being a rock type with 105 defense, you actually naturally can take on a move from Ursaluna, right? You can actually take on Facade from Ursaluna and threaten it back with moves like Energy Ball. Of course, Mortal Spin is also something that Glimmora can do and has done. And obviously also prior to Mega Evolving, you can get up your Toxic Spikes with Toxic Debris. I think the speed raise is pretty nice over those base 100, so now you're faster than at base 100 and below. So you're faster than Pokemon like Urshifu, which I think is pretty cool. I had Dragon as well. Faster than Mega Charizard Y, which is nice because you can threaten it with a Power Gem and do things like this. Levitate in singles is okay. You kind of do what Poison types... You kind of stop doing what Poison types want to do, which is absorb Toxic Spikes for the team. So if the opponent has Toxic Spikes, you can't absorb them if you Mega Evolve because you're Levitating. I can still Mortal Spin. I'll just say that without being able to use a move like Red Card, which is what Glimmora likes to use in singles, Red Card, Focus Sash, Choice Scarf, or even Power Herb, Meteor Beam might be a little bit harder for Glim right there, but at least in the VGC case, being able to threaten some Premier Megas like Mega Salamence, being able to resist its Double Edge, its Aerolate Double Edge and Facades and returns. Well, there's no return in the game, but you know, it's flying type attacks, and being immune to moves like Stomping Tantrum, Earth Power, Earthquake, seems pretty cool for Glimmora. Being able to flip that weakness in a pinch, I think, is really nice. And just Rock really giving it a lot of resistances in that case. When it comes to singles, I have to see, right? A Levitate Rock Poison is great. You got rid of one of the weaknesses, but is it worth using your Mega Stone when we can only use one? And at least in VGC, you can have two different modes on your team. You have multiple different modes on your team, right? So a lot of VGC teams would end up having multiple Megas on their team, right? There was Mega Kangaskhan plus Mega Salamence a lot, Mega Kangaskhan plus Mega Gengar and things like that as well. This one is funny because if it's true, it's just hilarious. Mega Zeraora has speed boost. Yeah, man, I get it. Sometimes being only slower than Pokemon like Regieleki and Deoxys Speed and Ninjask is tough. And you're like, I can go faster. I get it. Gotta go fast. So this is really funny because I think this has a lot more use. Well, first off, I have no idea if Mega Zeraora will even be something you can use in VGC, considering it is a mythical Pokemon. But maybe they got rid of the way you get them now, because I know they changed a few things, so you can get them a little bit easier. So maybe you actually have a VGC mode where you'll be able to use it. But when it comes to singles, there's some fun stuff you could do with this, right? Or in draft as well. There's some really fun stuff you can do with this because it has bulk up, and being able to maximize your bulk can allow you to live moves like Earthquake from Pokemon like Garchomp a little easier as well, while still not being able to get revenge killed by Pokemon like a Booster Energy Iron Valiant or a Choice Scarf Landorus or anything along those lines. Now, do you have moves like Ice Punch and stuff to threaten them? No, you do have Play Rough for Pokemon like Garchomp, and you have Knockoff, you have Strong Knockoff. I just think giving this thing speed boost is so funny, and that there's definitely a play. I love that you can't revenge it with a Booster Energy Mon, and I love that you can't revenge it with a Scarfer, but it's still going to be weak to the common ground types like Landorus and Gliscor. Those two specifically, right? Because even Great Tusk has to worry about Calm Mind, Grass Knot, or even just Grass Knot 4 attacks because you have base 147 special attack. So you can easily run mixed on it as well. You don't have to run bulk up on this set, but just like a Plasma Fist mixed set. This is your colorful set to be able to do that. So I think this is a pretty cool boost for Zeraora. Obviously, something like Tough Claws, Iron Fist specifically, which would boost Plasma Fist, would have been nasty. Like the damage overall would have been crazy. We actually had that in Legends EA for a bit, and the metagame, not the game. And we ended up having to change it. We had to nerf it because Zeraora was way too good. But just being able to run a Drain Punch bulk up, it was because of that specifically. It wasn't even just Plasma Fist. It was the fact that Drain Punch was boosted by Iron Fist, so you were actually recovering too much. But being able to run this and have a speed boost, having to not even worry about attack. Like if you truly wanted to, if it does have speed boost, if you truly want to, and you think you can get multiple, you can literally run a bulk up max defense set, so you can take on Pokemon like the Earthquakes being thrown at you and just recover off the damage with Drain Punch. You still have 350 attack without any investment, which is absolutely insane. There's a lot you can do with this. I think this is going to be a crazy singles and a crazy Draftmon if it doesn't end up having speed boost. I think even without speed boost, whatever ability they give this Pokemon is going to be nasty because these stats are insane for an offensive Pokemon. Mega Clefable is really interesting, right? Fairy Flying is really good typing, looking at Togekiss, and it has great abilities prior to Mega Evolving. Magic Guard and Unaware are insane. Now, the ability that this Pokemon potentially has is called Magic Bounce. And y'all know what Magic Bounce does. Status moves all get bounced back. Stealth Rock, Hazards all get bounced back. You go for Whirlwind, you get bounced back. You go for Parting Shot, you get bounced back. And it actually forces you to switch out, which I think is really funny. But Magic Bounce is really cool on this because a lot of ways people will deal with a Clefable, at least in these singles, they'll go Ting Lu, which is weak to Moonblast, but it's not going to die. And they will simply get up Hazards and then Whirlwind it out, phase it out with Whirlwind. You can no longer do that due to Magic Bounce. I'm not really sure if this has too much to do with VGC. I think not being able to be taunted is really cool, especially on a Pokemon that has a lot of support moves for the team, like Follow Me, like Heal Pulse, keeping your teammate alive, and obviously keeping yourself alive if you want to with Moonlight. And then even Dazzling Gleam and stuff to do a lot of damage. You're also immune to moves like Earthquake from Ursaluna. I keep saying Ursaluna, but like I think this is a really funny option, right? Just not being able to be taunted. I also think in singles, it makes the Calm Mind set, the Calm Mind Unaware set, a lot scarier too. Or even Calm Mind Magic Guard a lot scarier because eventually you just Calm Mind up with Magic Guard. You don't care about anything. And then they try and bring out their Whirlwind Mon, like their Skarmory, right? Let's say you're Calm Mind, Moonblast, Wish, Protect, even though Protect is APP. You're something like this, right? And they're like, oh, okay, you're Mono Moonblast, we're good. Or you're just Calm Mind, knock off Moonlight, right? Even if you're anything like this, and they try and go something like Skarmory, you Mega Evolve, you get Magic Bounce, you have your insane special attack increase as well. 135 is no joke. And then they can't phase you out. So I think this has a lot of nasty mind games, especially with Magic Guard, and it's just another tool in Mega Clefable's arsenal. Mega Darkrai is something else, right? They already nerfed Dark Void terribly. All they had to do was make it that Smeargle couldn't use it. They were like, nah, let's make it 50% accurate as well. And Darkrai does have Hypnosis, which is also 6% accurate. They also made it incredibly bulky. Now, Darkrai's ability has an enhanced Bad Dreams. So for those that don't know what Bad Dreams does, if you're sleeping, it takes 1/8 of your health at the end of each turn. The enhanced Bad Dreams apparently takes 1/4, 25% of your health at the end of each turn. If I'm taking 25% of your health at the end of each turn and I'm playing in doubles, I'm throwing off 50% accurate Dark Voids. I don't care. I don't care, right? I do not care. If this lands on you, and if it lands on both of your Mons, losing 25%, a quarter of their health every single time, absolutely disgusting. Now, this ability might not matter so much for 66 singles because we do have sleep moves banned. Though if they end up getting unbanned in the next generation or our iteration of Champions OU or, Gen 10, I don't know. Maybe that means Darkrai will end up going, but because Hypnosis, regular Darkrai, and Iron Valiant with Hypnosis are actually the reasons why sleep moves got banned in 66 singles. So nasty for Darkrai, right? Being able to go for that, especially on a really tanky set. I'm not gonna lie, and and it's fun too, but I'm not gonna lie. But Darkrai being able to just throw off the... I might just run both, man. I might just give myself a slightly higher chance. Nah, I think throwing off 2 Dark Voids is just nasty for this Pokemon. Its overall bulk, not being able to go down, right? Being a straight up counter to Psy Spam just by existing, right? Who cares if they have Mega Gardevoir, man? You can really... I think Darkrai is going to be one of those Pokemon, if VGC legal, I think Darkrai is going to be one of those Pokemon that can literally run stupid sets like this and forget about doing your massive damage, which you're going to do anyway, right? You're already hitting harder than Darkrai by just existing, right? I think Darkrai has 3 more special attack than this. I'm pretty positive regular Darkrai has 369 damage. Okay, 369 special attack when maxed out. And I'm positive, yep, at a timid nature. Yep. So I know my Darkrai cows, man. I got mine when I went to, was it GameStop? I think I went to as a kid. I don't remember. It might have been GameStop. I don't know. I got all the events as a kid. Anyway, without any investment, you can do so much with this. One Darkrai we really liked was actually Swords Dance and Legends of the AoE, but we gave it Yveltal's ability, Dark Aura. So it was pretty nasty with that Sucker Punch and stuff like that. But I think if this is true, Dark Void on bulkier sets is going to be crazy. And really, you can just tailor it to kind of live everything, right? Like this will live like an Urshifu's close combat insanely easily. And KO back with moves like Thunderbolt or Psychic. I don't believe it still has Thunderbolt. Oh, okay. Cool. It had Thunders before, but this is also... This moveset might be National Dex. Anyway, but like there's just a lot you can do with this. And just being able to just tank... Who cares about Incineroar damage, right? You're not doing anything to this. You're not doing anything to my Mon. I cannot wait to use this Pokemon, if this is true, in a tier where I can just throw off moves like this, right? Pure Dark type has some pretty good resistances. The big one is, of course, Opposing Dark. And the other big one is, of course, Ghost, which is very good, right? You have Pokemon like Mega Gengar, you have Dragapult. Like Ghost is, I mean, you have Mr. Astro Barrager themselves. So Ghost is really cool. So a nasty buff for Darkrai, specifically in Battle Stadium singles and VGC, if legal. And then for 66, it kind of just depends on if sleep moves get banned or not. Mega Crabominable. So Hypercut is great for ignoring Intimidate prior, right? But Mega Crabominable also is a Contrary or Defiant Mon. Now, for the sake of them thinking more Contrary, we're going to talk about this. Much like Staraptor, close combat. So you'll be boosting your defenses, and considering you have 122 defense and 107 special defense, 1.5 times in that every single time you do it for close combat makes you so hard to deal with, especially on Drain Punch sets. It kind of ruins the whole bulk up aspect of this Pokemon. But there's something else really funny you can do. And if you run a max speed guy, right, just max speed, and you run Ice Hammer, its signature move, you can actually raise your speed by 1 every single time this Pokemon uses Ice Hammer, and slowly, very slowly, but surely get yourself a fast Crab that can try and sweep. But I think the close combat Drain Punch is really nasty. I think the Ice Hammer being able to boost is really cool too. And then Crab also got some really cool stuff like First Impression and Gunk Shot from Pokemon Legends ZA. So some nasty buffs overall for it. Ice Fighting, Ice type is always like not the greatest defensively, but Ice Fighting offensively is such great typing. So you might definitely see this on, or you may see this rather on Trick Room. And again, just a Mon that can just outslow basically every Trick Room Mon if it really wants to, and just hit incredibly hard with moves like Close Combat, Ice Hammer, and just boost itself and make it really difficult to deal with. Like I don't see there's no reason to run something like this, you know? There are a few Pokemon that resist this, like Golden Go. You could run Knockoff if you really wanted to as well. To Pokemon like Golden Go too. And yeah, overall, a pretty fun buff for Mega Crabominable. It definitely gives it a niche on Trick Room. And I think just really bulky sets can be cool too with Close Combat Drain Punch. You won't be able to raise your attack though with Bulk Up, which is a little bit of a miss for the Pokemon. So we'll see. You can lower your defenses times 2 with Iron Defense though if you really want to. I think it also getting Mach Punch is really nice. Oh, you can raise your attack and lower it with Superpower. There you go. So you can use something like Superpower if you really want to over CC, and you can raise your attack and defense in one. So it is your bulk up. So this might actually like forgo the special defense and do something like this and raise your attack and defense, and then just go for the Drain Punch for recovery or have your knockoff or anything like that. Really cool. Mon, what do you guys think about this Pokemon? Mega Raichu X. Now this Pokemon is kind of something we saw happening in the we kind of saw this happening in the trailer where it Mega Evolved, and then there was terrain that popped up after. Because what I'm about to say is, this Pokemon is supposedly getting Electric Surge, which means it does summon electric terrain when it comes out. So it does Tapu Koko, Pincurchin, and Miraidon's job. So let's talk about that for a second. First off, Pincurchin is not really the most viable Pokemon. I like using Pincurchin in lower tiers. I like using it in metagames where I can give it whatever move I want, like Volt Switch or U-Turn. Depending on like if you're playing Stab Mons or something like that. It's something Volt Switch for Stab Mons. It doesn't have anything like that. Tapu Koko is obviously not in the game currently, and if it is in the game, it's a great Pokemon. And then Miraidon, you're obviously limited to either Ubers if you're playing 66 singles, or a restricted metagame if you're playing VGC. So having a Mega that can get up electric terrain for potentially Iron Pokemon, like Iron Valiant or Iron Hands, and giving them, you know, their booster energy, or their Quark Drive, rather. Basically, being able to support those Mons is really cool for Raichu. And just like Tapu Koko, Raichu, can Volt... I don't know why I put U-Turn. Raichu can Volt Switch, so it can actually give momentum to the other Pokemon, and getting in your other Mons from there. Raichu also is obviously a Pikachu clone, so it can provide fake out support for the team as well while getting up electric terrain, allowing your teammate to do a little bit more. I'm not going to lie, it being pure electric is still kind of a bummer for me. I really wanted this to become like part fighting, and then being able to make use of moves like Drain Punch or, what was it, Low Kick? Was it Low Kick on this guy? It wasn't Low Kick on this guy. There's something. Well, I wanted to have like Fighty 8 so it could like Body Slam and have things like that. But Raichu's still interesting. Like that base 135 attack is cool, and obviously moves like Volt Tackle, if you're able to have it, are going to hit incredibly hard, boosted by electric terrain as well. And you still have base 90 special attack, so you can even still run things like Surf or Grass Knot for the ground type Pokemon. But I think being pure electric is kind of difficult for a lot of Pokemon, and a lot of Pokemon that are pure electric, they just don't end up being that. Like if I'm gonna have a pure electric mon, I would rather have like Electabuzz in VGC, because it can follow me. I believe Pikachu lost follow me, if I'm not mistaken. So it can follow me, has Eviolite, but obviously in Pokemon Champions you can't use that. You can actually use Pikachu, you can't use Electabuzz. So I'm not sure how I feel about this. I think Electric Surge is cool. It's nice to have it on a Pokemon that basically, if I want to play this in like an OU tier, I don't have to use Pincurchin if I want to use, you know, booster energy Pokemon without the booster energy. So I can use Choice Specs, Iron Valiant with, you know, Moonblast and spam that as well. So I think this would be cool in a national dex or anything like that. I'm not 100% sure how much I like it in regular, but also being able to outspeed and threaten Pokemon like Charizard Y with, you know, your Volt Tackle, I think is pretty cool. You're just going to kind of suffer with ground types in a doubles metagame. But I mean, Fake Out, Protect, Volt Tackle, and whatever other thing, Encore if you really want to. You can do a lot of stuff, at least in that regard. The last Pokemon I want to talk about, and the reason I want to talk about this last, because I'll mention really quickly that apparently Mega Magearna has Soul Art, Mega Excalibur has Thermal Exchange. I didn't really want to talk about the Mons that really had the same ability, even though those are two great abilities for those Pokemon. I think they just make them even better just having them. Those Pokemon could add, well, Mega Excalibur probably didn't need the ability, and honestly Mega Magearna, Soul Heart was already broken and still broken as well. Mega Electros has an ability that we don't know the effect of, so I'm not going to talk about that. But Mega Lucario Z, the leaker said Prankster. Now, this could be two things. One, it is one of the fastest Mons, and it kept going before everything, so that could just mean that it's 441 speed, so it might just have gone before anybody anyway. But Prankster Mega Lucario Z is an interesting thing, right? Because Riolu has Prankster. Riolu is a great Prankster user, being able to run Eviolite, being able to get up Rain Dance and stuff. And there's a few things I want to talk about when it comes to it. I actually noted a few of them there right in front of you. In fact, I didn't even write down the big one, but I like Prankster coaching right next to a Choice Scarf Pokemon next to you, so you can actually coach it before it attacks. So it's kind of similar like when I played in the draft league, or like a random battle one day draft where I had Riolu plus or Shifu, and it was Scarf or Shifu, but because I was Prankster on Riolu, I was able to give it the coaching and then go for Surging Strikes from there. So that's definitely a really cool option, being able to use Prankster coaching. The other thing is moves like Sunny Day and Rain Dance can be really nice, right? You don't have to worry about your opponent having, let's say, Zard Y plus Venusaur, and you're fearing the Heat Wave plus Sleep Powder next to your partner, whatever's next to Mega Lucario, and then you end up going for Rain Dance. So as they mega evolve, or as they basically mega evolve. So then you get rid of their sun, you get up the rain, and not only that, you weaken their heat wave, but also the Venusaur is outsped and dealt with because of your partner. I think Prankster Heal Pulse is also really cool. So just being able to, like, let's say your opponent sets up a Tailwind with a Whimsicott on the opposing side of the field. This is all like in a doubles perspective. Your opponent goes for Tailwind. So the way dynamic speed works is if Tailwind is up, the partner next to it is going to immediately get the speed. So it can allow them to outspeed something. But if you go for a Prankster Heal Pulse, you could heal your teammate to be able to actually live a hit from that Pokemon. So I think that's a pretty cool option when it comes to as well. When it comes to singles, I like the idea of like Calm Mind versus like offensive Scarfers, or even some like jank stuff like Rest Talk Priority could be interesting. Substitute as well. And then I have Copycat, which I think is pretty cool. Being able to copycat Pokemon like Scarfers locked into attacks as you know, in an in-game, or even being able to copycat like Stealth Rock and singles when it comes to that, and doing things like that. So I think those are all some little things where Prankster on one of the fastest Mon could still do something for, especially being able to match moves like Tailwind and things like that. In terms of, or Weather rather, moves like Tailwind in terms of like the Heal Pulse interaction like I talked about. The last interaction I actually want to talk about was the Follow Me interaction. This is just Lucario in general, but Follow Me and Fake Out have the exact same priority, and then one of them coming off of this, you know, 441 speed Prankster, like, so you'll be able to force them to fake out you. It's the same thing though at the end of the day. I wish they hadn't changed the way Copycat and Aurora works, because then you could do crazy phasing like you could in Generation 5, but you can't do that anymore. Raulu was doing some crazy stuff with that. But yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on these Megas? What are your thoughts on the abilities? Do you believe them? Do you not? Either way, it's fun to talk about them, even if they're not real. And some of them I definitely hope are real. Others are like, yeah, okay. I mean, that's cool for an option, but I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching this longer video. If you did, feel free to subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Pokemon Champions comes out next week. We're hyped. See you guys.